Hello Warhammer Explorers, hit subscribe and stay with our legion. Your support is what lets me keep making these crossovers. What if Homelander became the emperor of mankind? Homelander hovers above his Earth, high above the clouds, and feels only boredom and thin, nervous worship. In a secret vault lab, white coats show him a machine that hums with blue light and stolen math. A door to a human empire that stretches across the stars. He imagines whole galaxies of people chanting his name, kneeling, loving him because they have no one else. He steps into the ring, lets Compound V burn bright in his veins, and the machine tears open a tunnel of screaming light that smells like blood and metal and prayer. Warp voices claw at his mind as he smiles and flies into the breach, and the door slams shut behind him as the far future of Warhammer 40,000 rushes up to meet him. The sky over Holy Terror breaks. Billions see it. Pilgrims in rusted hab blocks, clerks in high spires, soldiers on walls of living stone. Above the golden roofs and ash-choked streets, the clouds twist into a whirlpool of sick light. A circle of blue-white fire opens over the palace, brighter than any sun. Warning sirens howl. Cathedral bells hammer. Servo skulls spin and chatter their litanies. On the battlements of the Imperial Palace, Lord Admiral Kildravian raises his augmetic eyes. His coat snaps in the wind. His command staff flickers with data. Orbital feeds show a single form falling out of the breach, wrapped in flames that do not burn him. A drop pod? Someone gasps. No, Dravian says. A man. Homelander slams into the high air above Terra and stops in an instant. Power cracks across his skin. His cape snaps like a banner. He looks down. He feels it hit him like a wave. Faith. Not the thin plastic devotion of a marketing campaign, not the forced applause of a TV audience. This is a world that has spent 10,000 years worshipping a distant, half-dead god on a golden throne. The psychic weight of that belief presses into him, pours into the new warp scars inside his soul. He almost moans. They already love me, he thinks. They just do not know my face yet. He opens his eyes wider and sees the threat. In high orbit, the Sol defense grid is under attack. Chaos warships burn black and red against the void, their hulls carved with screaming faces. They spit fire and demons at the ring of Imperial battleships around Terra. Lance beams stab and miss. Torpedoes drown in clouds of warp mist. Dravian's vox bead shrieks. Enemy fleet translation confirmed. Designation: War Host of the Idol Breaker. Repeat, the Idol Breaker leads this Black Crusade against Sol. Idol Breaker? Dravian says. He comes for the throne. Yes, my lord, a Voidmaster says. He comes for God. Homelander hears the words through the humming psychic field. He does not know the names yet, but he understands the tone. Someone thinks they can take what is his. He angles his body and flies. The upper air burns around him. Thin ice on distant spires flashes to steam. He tears through the cloud layers in seconds, leaving a wound in the sky. Sensor spirits scream as they try to track him. In the bridge of Dravian's flagship in orbit, holopix flicker. A blue-white streak rises from Terra like a thrown spear. Contact, a sensor officer whispers. Unknown asset, transatmospheric velocity. Emperor preserve us. Homelander breaks free of atmosphere and hangs in the dark. For a breath he is still. Stars shine. Terra glows below like a dying ember wrapped in iron and faith. Above him, chaos warships crawl closer, their prows shaped like fanged maws. He smiles. This is going to look good, he murmurs to himself, though no one can hear. The nearest enemy cruiser opens fire. Warp-tainted plasma lances toward him, a river of sick green light. Homelander's eyes flare hot. Two beams of red, pure and narrow, cut through the void. They meet the lance in the middle. The chaos fire shatters. The cruiser's prow melts like wax. Red beams drill straight through the ship. It blossoms in silence, torn open from end to end, spilling crew, air and demons into space. The explosion washes over Homelander. It stings. The warp burns along his nerves, whispering promises and insults in the same breath. His jaw tightens. For a heartbeat, his vision swims, and in the broken light, he sees faces pressed against glass back on his old Earth. All the people who thought they owned him. He pushes the pain down and smiles wider. Codex note: unshielded warp entities react violently when exposed to focused V-empowered photonic discharge at interstellar weapon scales. On Terra, crowds fall to their knees. Many think they see an angel. Some whisper a forbidden thought. He walks again. Inside the palace, deep in shadowed halls, Inquisitor Mara Veritas watches Auspec's holoscreens. Her armor is black and red, carved with seals of purity. Her eyes have the hard shine of a woman who has burned worlds to save others. Replay, she orders. The pict repeats. A flying figure, pale face, blue eyes, red cape, golden trimmed suit. A man, not a machine. A man who shrugs off plasma fire and cuts a cruiser in half with his gaze. That is no known asset of the Astra Militarum, a tech priest drones. No recorded pattern from Adeptus Astartes. No approved STC. Then it is either a miracle, Mara says, or a trap. In orbit, Dravian makes his call first. He slams his fist onto the command lectern. All batteries, hold fire around the unknown, he orders. If he is with us, we cannot risk hitting him. Redirect fire to the flanks. Protect Terra. Yes, Lord Admiral. And open a channel, he adds. On every band, every tongue. If he is a god, he will hear. Homelander does not need a vox to hear. The prayer field of humanity brushes his mind. Data flows from Auspec's spirits like faint radio. He snaps it into focus without meaning to. Unknown asset. Emperor protect us. He burns like a star. Emperor. The word hits like a drug. He looks down at Terra again, at the titanic palace that squats over the Himalayas like a continent made of gold and bone. Somewhere inside, something huge and broken flickers in the warp. A beacon, a dying light. He feels it as a rival. You had your turn, he whispers. Another wave of chaos ships closes in. Smaller ones now, sleek killers trying to slip past the main Imperial defense line and drop demonic payloads directly on Terra. Homelander moves. He is not subtle. He flies through them. He claws open a gunship with his bare hands, rips out its warp-stinking heart, and throws it into another ship. He grabs a torpedo in mid-flight and hurls it back at its launch bay. His beams cut engines, bridge towers, and living warp things bound to hulls. Each time he fires, the pain in his skull grows. The warp remembers him now. The path he tore from his old universe still clings to him, a raw scar. As he burns brighter, the scar widens. Something on the other side notices. Far beyond the system, in the unreal sea of the warp, a new tide moves. A vast presence turns its gaze towards Saul. It smells a fresh god soul, raw and vain and hungry. On Terra, Vox traffic blurs into panicked praise. Unidentified angelic, Dravian's officers chant. Destroying enemy vanguard. Casualties, minimal. Minimal? Dravian asks. Enemy casualties, my lord. Dravian looks at the holo again. The man out there is precise. He tears the enemy apart, but he never lets a burning ship fall toward Terra. He cuts them away, shoves wreckage aside. He is careful with the world below. Good. the Lord Admiral says softly. He understands what is at stake. In the palace, Inquisitor Mara walks into a high sanctum. The walls are covered in frescoes of the Emperor's deeds. At the far end, a huge window shows the sky, and above it, the icons of the Golden Throne shine. A hunched astropath kneels before her, blind eyes bleeding light. You feel it? Mara asks. Yes, Inquisitor, the psychic seer whispers. Something. New. A light. But not his light. It drinks the faith that was his. Mara stares up at the sky, where the breach still flickers faintly. Then we must know if this thing is worthy, she says, or if we must kill a god. Up to now, a strange superhuman has fallen from a warp tear onto holy terror, saved the soul defense line in minutes, and awakened hope and fear in equal measure. The Chaos Fleet breaks. Their lord, the Idolbreaker, feels it from his flagship. A towering figure wrapped in chains and living prayers. He stands on a bridge made of bone and looks at the distant point of light, that is terror. Something steals my war, he growls. Something drinks the faith I came to shatter. A demon, slick with eyes and mouths, coils around his shoulders. A rival godlet master, it purrs, born from elsewhere, young, loud, perhaps edible. The idol, Breaker smiles with too many teeth. Then we go still closer, he says. Let him show his strength. Then we will break him in front of his worshippers. But he does not reach terror that day. Homelander sees the flagship's shadow like a tumor at the edge of battle. He feels its gaze. For a second, his confidence wavers. This is not a bank robber or a petty soup. This is something that lives in the screams between stars. He considers flying straight at it, breaking it with his hands, showing everyone he is the only god they need. The pain in his head spikes. For the first time, he feels tired. Not in his muscles, but in whatever sits behind his eyes. The warp scar throbs, hot and cold at once. Not yet, he thinks. Make them want it first. He turns away, finishes cleaning the Vanguard, and lets the Chaos flagship retreat into the warp, limping but alive. It leaves a promise behind like a bad smell. Down on Terra, the ecclesiarchy explodes. Cardinals shout, choirs sing, banners are ripped down and raised up again. Half the priests in the upper spires declare with wild joy that the Emperor has returned in a new, living form. The other half call it blasphemy to even think it. Inquisitor Mara walks into the argument like a blade. This thing claims nothing yet, she says. You will not name it. You will not paint it. You will not tell the people that the Emperor walks. Not until we know what it is. People have eyes, Inquisitor, an old cardinal snaps. They saw him in the sky. They saw an angel save Terra. Then we must speak with the angel, Mara says, before their stories run too far. Homelander descends. His entry is not subtle either. He chooses it that way. He drops out of low orbit like a falling star and stops 3 meters above the broad marble steps of the Eternity Gate, the main entrance to the Imperial Palace. A host of warriors waits there. A wall of gold-armored giants blocks his way, their spears like sunbeams, their helmets carved as noble faces. Each one is taller than any man he has known. Their leader steps forward, his cloak deep red. Adeptus Custodes, Dravian explains quietly to himself, watching through a hololink from orbit. The Emperor's own guardians. The custodian captain raises his spear. Identify yourself, he says. His voice is calm, but the air around him crackles with contained violence. Homelander looks at them with an amused tilt to his head. He could cut them down in seconds. He knows it, even without testing them. But the people watching from the lower levels and the Vox feeds need a show. He lowers himself to the ground. Marble cracks under his boots. "I heard you needed saving," he says. The custodian's eyes narrow. "We asked nothing," he replies. "The Emperor protects." Homelander smiles. "You're welcome." The air chills. A small group steps out from behind the custodes. Inquisitor Mara leads them. She does not kneel. She does not bow. She looks him in the eye, and behind her hard stare he sees practiced fear and duty, not awe. "I am Inquisitor Mara Veritas of the Ordo Hereticus," she says. "I speak for the holy orders of the Inquisition. You have entered the throne world without leave. You have wielded impossible power over the soul defense grid. You will answer questions." He turns his smile on her. It usually works. "Of course," he says. "You have questions. Everyone does, when they see something new on the screen." "We do not have screens," a priest near her mutters. Homelander laughs lightly. "Sure you do. Different shapes, same thing." Lord Admiral Dravian arrives then, out of breath and out of place in his void coat among all the holy golden stone. He bows to Mara, nods to the custodian, then steps toward Homelander. "I am Lord Admiral Kael Dravian, Master of the Soul Bastion Fleet," he says. "On behalf of every soul who would have died today, I offer thanks." Homelander likes him at once. The man is tired, scarred, and honest in a way that reminds him of the few humans he almost respected back home. "You're welcome," Homelander repeats, but his tone is different now. He offers Dravian his hand. The Lord Admiral hesitates only a heartbeat before taking it. A gasp moves through the watching crowd. Some kneel, some cry. One woman presses her hands to her mouth and whispers, "He touched the Emperor." Mara hears it. Her jaw tightens. "Enough," she says. "We will move inside. Not here in front of the mob." Homelander looks past her at the sea of faces packed into the plaza. They stare at him the way audiences once did, but multiplied. Fear, hope, hunger. Some hold candles, some hold guns. All of them want something. He drinks it in. Then he nods as if doing a favor. "Lead the way," he says. They take him into the palace. He walks under ceilings painted with battles long past. He passes roaring fountains of sacred oil, rows of statues, and endless lines of petitioners who have waited all their lives to step 1 meter closer to the throne. The weight of worship presses on him from all sides. The old Emperor is close now. Homelander feels the failing god like a dying sun. The man on the golden throne has been the center of a psychic beacon for 10,000 years. His light is dim and cracked, but still vast. Homelander feels a flicker of something like pity. Then it turns into disgust. "You wasted this," he thinks. They reach a great chamber of polished black stone. No windows, only a table, some chairs, and enough hidden guns to kill a Titan. Mara, Dravian, and 2 other High Lords sit. Custodes stand at the walls like statues. Homelander chooses no chair. He floats a handspan above the floor, arms crossed. "Name," Mara says. "Homelander," he replies. "Where I come from, it means exactly what you think it does. Origin. A world far back in your past," he says. "Different branch, different show." He shrugs. "I took a door. Now I'm here." They do not understand the details, but they understand enough. A being from somewhere else with power that bends their categories. "What do you want?" Dravian asks. His voice is steady. Homelander looks at him, then at Mara, then at the custodes. He thinks of the old man on the throne, rotting quietly while the galaxy tears itself apart in his name. "I want humanity to live," he says, "and I want them to know who saved them. All of them. Every world, every hive. I want them to be safe, and I want them to love the one who gives them that safety." He lets the words hang. It is the closest thing he has to an honest ethic. Mara hears the second part louder than the first. "Worship," she says. "You want worship." He shrugs. "You already do that. I just think your current figurehead isn't performing." Every custodes in the room goes perfectly still. Dravian's breath catches. The other High Lords go pale. "You speak of the Emperor," one whispers. Homelander tilts his head. "You call him that. You keep him on a machine he can't get off. He is a light bulb on a throne of wires. You need someone who can move, someone who can go where the danger is, someone who can be seen." Mara's voice is ice. "You suggest replacing the master of mankind." Homelander smiles, small and bright. "I suggest upgrading." Up to now, Homelander has turned a doomed battle into a rout, made first contact with Terra's rulers, and declared his intent. Save humanity and take its love, even if that means usurping their ancient god. The alarms start again, before anyone can answer. A Vox officer runs into the chamber, panting. "Lord Admiral," he gasps. "Inquisitor, the warp breach above Terra is changing." They hurry back to the viewing halls. Hollow screens flicker, showing the sky outside. The tear that brought Homelander here still hangs above the palace, a pale ghost. Now it flares. Purple and gold veins spread from its edge. Lightning strokes that have no source dance across it. Something is pushing from the other side. "Enemy reinforcements?" Dravian asks. Mara shakes her head slowly. "No, this is new." Homelander feels it inside his skull. The warp scar he brought with him heats up. His vision blurs for a moment. He hears a roar of cheering crowds, but they are not for him. They are for something else that is learning from his shape. He sways in midair. Mara sees it. Her eyes sharpen. "This breach," she says, "it is tied to you." "Everything is tied to me," he snaps, then forces his tone back to smooth. "Yes, the door I used. It left a mark. If it widens," Dravian says, "can more of you come through?" Homelander imagines more soups here. He imagines rivals. He does not like the image. "No," he says, "there is only one of me." The breach bulges. A wave of psychic pressure rolls over Terra. Millions cry out. In the underhives, cultists fall to their knees and start chanting in a tongue no one taught them. In the cathedrals, some statues crack. The idol breaker laughs in the warp, riding the last shreds of his retreating fleet's prayer echo. He pushes his will toward the scar Homelander made. "Come then, little god," he whispers. "Let us see whose worship is stronger." The tear spits something out. It is not a ship, or a demon, or a man. It is an idea. Every screen on Terra shows the same thing for a heartbeat. A face like Homelander's, but twisted, smiling too wide, eyes like bottomless pits. A whisper crawls under the pictures, in every language at once. He lies. The image vanishes. People blink. Many forget. Some do not. In their hearts, a seed of doubt and loathing lodges, small and sharp. Homelander sucks in a breath. His chest tightens. For the first time in his life, he feels weaker. Not much, just a hair's breadth less invincible. It enrages him. "What was that?" Dravian asks. Mara's face is pale. "A mimetic hex," she says slowly. "A curse made of a thought, designed to turn belief against its target. It used your image." Homelander bares his teeth. "They don't get to do that," he says. "No," Mara replies. "They already did." The first major counterattack comes 3 days later. By then, the Imperium has done what it always does, with something it does not understand. Built a war plan and an argument at the same time. The argument happens in a great chamber of marble and metal. Around the table sit high lords, generals, admirals, cardinals, and inquisitors. On the walls, servo skulls record every word. Hollows of burning worlds flicker in the air. Homelander floats above the far end of the table. He does not sit. His cape drifts, perfectly arranged. Dravian stands near him, hands on the edge of the table. Mara is opposite, flanked by other inquisitors and a few silent grey knights in silver armor, the elite demon-killing space marines. So, Homelander says, you have a galaxy that is slowly dying. Enemies everywhere. A god who cannot leave his chair. And now you have me. His eyes sweep the room. You're welcome. An old general coughs. Our forces are stretched thin, he says. War rages on 10,000 fronts. The Idol Breaker's war host is only one of many threats. We cannot throw our best at Saul alone. We must, a cardinal argues. If the throne falls, the Astronomicon dies. Without that psychic lighthouse, our ships are blind in the warp. Humanity scatters and is devoured. Then we protect Saul, Homelander says. Hard. We crush this Idol Breaker. We send a message. Mara's gaze flicks to him. At what cost? She asks. How many other worlds fall while we feed your war here? Homelander shrugs. Do those worlds worship the throne like this one? Every world of the Imperium is bound to the Emperor, the Cardinal snaps. Sure, Homelander says. But you and I both know some are more equal than others. You already triage. You already decide who burns and who is saved. I'm just saying we should make better use of the symbol at the top. The symbol at the top is not you, Mara says. Her voice is soft, but there is iron in it. Not yet. He leans forward, eyes glowing faintly. Tell that to the people in the streets. The people in the streets are not invited to this table, an admiral mutters. Homelander's gaze cuts to him. The man flinches, sweating. Dravian steps in quickly. We are not here to debate titles, he says. We are here to decide how to use this new asset against the foe at our gates. Homelander relaxes a little. Asset, tool. He has been called worse. Fine, he says. Let's talk about winning. They lay out maps. A hollow of the Sol system appears, showing Terra, Mars, the defense stations, and the outer picket lines. Symbols mark where the Idol Breaker's war host broke through and where it fell back. The enemy will not strike the same way twice, a tactician says. He has seen our defenses. He has seen him. He nods toward Homelander. Next time, he will be ready. So we hit him first, Homelander suggests. You have ships. I have speed. We find him and burn him. You do not understand the warp, Mara says. To hunt a chaos warlord in his own storms is to swim blind with sharks, and there is another issue. She taps the map. A small, blinking symbol appears near Terra. This is a splinter of a Tyranid high fleet, she says. A tendril of a galactic swarm that eats all life. It was not aimed at Saul before. Now it turns toward us. The noise you made in the warp called it. Homelander frowns. You're saying I drew more monsters to you? Yes, she says simply. Dravian sighs. The Hive fleets follow psychic food, he says. The throne has always been a beacon, but now there is a second light, new, loud. Everyone looks at Homelander. He feels something twist in his gut. Guilt is not a feeling he enjoys. So, we kill that too. We may be able to, the general says. Your abilities. Give us options we have never had. If we act quickly, a strike force could engage the Tyranid tendril before it fully matures. Mara lifts a hand. But every time he uses that power, she says, the warp scar widens. More things notice. More things come. He is a weapon that calls fire every time it strikes. Homelander smiles thinly. Then we don't waste swings. The War Council splits along old lines. On one side, Dravian and the generals. They speak of opportunity, of worlds saved that would have burned, of fleets turned from the brink because a single man can do the work of a battle group. On the other side, Mara and the Inquisition. They speak of heresy, of a cult of personality that will grow around this new, Mi'etam savior, of chaos gods that feast on such belief, of a galaxy built on fragile faith now bending around a new center. The choice is simple, a general says. We can cling to old rules and watch more worlds die, or we can adapt and live. Mara meets his gaze. We do not cling to rules because we enjoy them, she says. We cling because every time we ignore them, something worse crawls out of the warp. Mercy killed 1 billion on Cadia. Hesitation fed the beast at Ulanor. We cannot put one man above the law of the Imperium. We already did, Homelander says. You nailed him to that throne. That was not a choice, the Cardinal protests. It was sacrifice. Homelander laughs softly. Call it what you like. You all want someone to carry the weight so you can sleep at night. I'm offering to carry it standing up. Until you fall, Mara says. What then? What happens when your need for their love clashes with what the species needs? Will you burn a world that hates you to save 10 that cheer your name? The question cuts deeper than he expects. He remembers a plane full of people. He remembers turning away. He remembers the look in Maeve's eyes when she understood what he had done. His jaw tightens. I will do what I must, he says. That is what every tyrant says, Mara replies. The debate continues, slow and heavy. Mercy versus survival. Freedom versus doctrine. Dravion tries to bridge the sides. He has already saved Terra once, he says. We must recognize that. We can bind him, make laws, set limits. You have seen what he can do, Mara says. You think laws will hold him? They hold me now, Homelander says quietly. They all turn to him. You know why I did not fly straight to that big chaos ship and crack it open. Because I saw how your people looked at me after I saved them. Terrified, yes, but hopeful. If I had chased glory and let debris fall, they would have only felt terror. That is not useful to me, or to you. It is as honest as he can be. Mara hears the self-interest, but she also hears something else. The faint echo of responsibility, even if it is built on vanity. We could draft terms, she says slowly. Conditions of sanction. A leash of sorts. A partnership, Homelander corrects. Call it what you like, she says. The first big test comes sooner than anyone wants. The Tyranid splinter fleet breaks into real space at the edge of Sol. Living ships the size of mountains writhe into view, spitting spores and smaller organisms like clouds of flies. Their psychic roar crashes against the Astronomicon. On the bridge of his flagship, Dravion watches the swarm approach. Signal all ships, he orders. Engage at maximum range, maintain fallback corridors to Terra, and send the request. Request, my lord? An officer asks. Dravion glances at the pict of Homelander standing alone in a launch bay, cape whipping in the artificial wind. Ask the Emperor for his help, Dravion says softly. The Vox carries the message in coded words, but the meaning is simple. We need you. Homelander feels it like a tug on a leash he agreed to wear. It is not a physical thing. It is a pattern of faith, a focused prayer shaped by an inquisitorial rite and wrapped in law. He hates that he likes it. He launches from Terra without waiting for permission. He blasts through void faster than any ship. His eyes burn long lines of light as he tests his speed against the cold. Tyrannid drones swarm ahead like a ring of teeth around the bigger beasts. A wave of organic projectiles streaks toward the Imperial line. Spore mines, bioplasma, chitin meteors. Homelander cuts into them. He does not simply destroy, he pushes. He eyes a knot of incoming spore pods aimed at a fragile escort line. He burns a hole through the center of the cluster, then rams the rest sideways with his shoulder. They tumble off course, exploding harmlessly into the void. He grabs a living missile, feels it squirm, then throws it back down the throat of its parent ship. The impact blasts a hole through the beast's armor. Careful, reminds himself. Every world watching, every lens, every prayer. At one point, a chunk of burning biomass spins toward a troop transport. For a second, the easiest choice is to cut it and let the fragments rain. Some will hit, some will kill. He flashes past instead, taking the impact himself, then shoving the debris clear. It hurts. Not the mass, but the psychic backlash. Every use of his full strength drags more warp into the scar inside him. It feels like someone is scoring words into the inside of his skull with a hot knife. Liar, the pain says. Pretender. Thief of faith. He grits his teeth and pushes harder. The Imperial fleet rallies around his wake. Lances and macro cannon fire tear into the stunned Tyrannid line. Gunships dive through gaps he opens. Boarding torpedoes slam home. A squad of Adeptus Astartes, the gene-forged space marines, launch from a strike cruiser. Their armor is dark blue, their pauldrons marked with the Omega of the Ultramarines chapter. They crash into the side of a massive Tyrannid bioship, cutting and burning as they go. Homelander watches them with a flicker of appreciation. They are brutal, efficient, fearless. They do in minutes what entire armies on his old Earth could not manage in days. Not bad, he mutters, then rips the bioship's main cannon off with one hand. When the battle ends, the Tyrannid splinter is shattered. The main beasts lie in drifting chunks. The warp echoes of their hunger fade. Homelander floats among the wreckage, breathing hard though he does not need air. His vision pulses. Every neuron feels overclocked. On every world that received the battle feeds, worship spikes. New cults of the winged savior form in back alleys and high shrines. They paint red capes on old emperor icons. They whisper a new name in their prayers. Homelander. In the chamber of the High Lords, the War Council reconvenes. We have witnessed a miracle, the Cardinal says. 2 great threats broken in days. How many billions did we just save? Billions today, Mara says. How many tomorrow, when his shadow falls on the throne? Dravian rubs his temples. He is too old for this kind of history. He fought carefully, the Lord Admiral says. He risked himself to protect ships he did not need. That counts for something. It counts, Mara agrees. It does not erase the danger, but perhaps it means he can be reasoned with. Homelander appears above the table again, fresh from a cleansing vault, where tech priests tried in vain to measure his biology. You're welcome, he says for the 3rd time. We thank you, Dravian says, and he means it. Yes, Mara adds. Thank you. Her tone is grudging, but sincere. She is not stupid enough to refuse reality. Homelander spreads his hands. See, he says. You need me. I need you. We can make this work. On conditions, Mara says. She lays out a slate. On it, a list of laws. He will not enter the Golden Throne's inner sanctum without inquisitorial leave. He will not accept open worship as the Emperor incarnate until the ecclesiarchy reaches a formal ruling. He will subject himself to regular psychic scrutiny by approved seers to monitor warp corruption. He will act under strategic direction of the High Lords in major campaigns. He will not alter imperial law without consent of the Senatorum Imperialis. And if I say no, he asks, then we try to kill you, Mara says simply. He studies her. She means it. She has burned worlds. She will burn him if she thinks it is needed. His pride flares hot. He could melt this table, tear this building open, force them to kneel. He looks past her at the hollow of a dozen asking worlds. Each one is a tiny light. Millions of faces behind each light. Millions of possible cheers. He swallows the rage. Fine, he says, for now. Up to now, Homelander has won 2 major battles with controlled collateral, forced the Imperium to draw up laws for a living god, and deepened both hope and fear across the galaxy. The alarm about the smarter foe comes from an unlikely place. An inquisitorial kill team returns from a minor shrine world on the edge of Segmentum Solar. The place has little value, a dusty rock with 1 cathedral and some farms. It should be peaceful. Instead, the pics they bring show riots. In the images, huge crowds tear down statues of the old emperor and burn them. They carry icons of Homelander with devil horns drawn on. They chant that he is a lie, a false god, a parasite feeding on their faith. This started after the mimetic event, Mara says, showing the footage to Homelander and Dravion. The warped face that appeared in every screen. It seeded more than hate. It seeded a pattern. Homelander watches the people scream and spit on his painted face. His hands curl into fists. I saved them, he says. And now they hate you, Mara replies. Not because of what you did, but because something in the warp flipped the path of their worship. Dravion frowns. If this spreads, it will spread, Mara says. Ideas move faster than ships, faster than light, in the warp. This is a designed weapon, Lord Admiral. A thought virus aimed at our new asset. Homelander's eyes flicker. So who do I kill? He asks. Where's the thing that did this? We do not know yet, Mara says. We have traces only. A name, the Idol Breaker, a chaos champion who hunts gods. He seems aligned to no single ruinous power. He uses belief itself as his blade. And he can hurt me? Homelander asks. Yes, she says, because of what you are and what you chose. Power scaling interlude. In the strategium of the Imperial Palace, a grey-robed tactician explains it in simple words to the assembled lords. Homelander's power now runs through the same psychic field that feeds the Golden Throne, he says. When he entered our reality through that warp scar, the faith of humanity linked to him. When people believe in him, he grows stronger. When they turn on him, he weakens. Mara adds, the Idol Breaker's mimetic hex twists that belief. It makes adoration curdle into hate. Each mind that turns is like a knife in Homelander's flesh. Dravion sums it up. Our greatest weapon is also a lightning rod. The more openly we use him, the more the enemy can strike at him by corrupting the very love he craves. The briefing room feels smaller than before. Hollows of the galaxy spin above the table, covered in red wounds. The air tastes of incense and metal. Homelander hangs in the air at one end, cape drifting. Dravion, the Lord Admiral, stands beside him. Inquisitor Mara, the stern church agent, watches from across the table with cold eyes. A new symbol flickers into focus. A skull made of broken halos. The Idol Breaker, Mara says. Real name, unknown. He has worn many faces. He leads no fixed legion. He fights where faith is strongest and most fragile. The hollow shifts. It shows a timeline of dead gods and shattered cults. Xenos idols, human saints, false emperors. He hunts gods, the tactician explains, or anything close enough. On a shrine world in Ultima Segmentum, he turned the people against their own living saint in 3 days. Their prayers killed her. On a Tau-held sphere, he rewired their belief in the greater good, so that doubt spread like plague. Civil war followed. He feeds when worship breaks. And now he hunts me, Homelander says. His jaw flexes. Cute. Mara points to a small cluster of stars near Saul. This is Helios Sanctum, she says. A shrine system. Millions of pilgrims pass through every year. Its main world beams a constant prayer chant toward Terra. The idol breaker moves toward it now. If he corrupts that chant, the mimetic hex he used on the breach will spread faster than we can track. Standard fleets, Dravian asks. Useless, the tactician says. Our ships can kill his followers. They cannot touch the thought weapons he rides. Every martyr he creates in a place of high faith makes him stronger. Dravian looks at Homelander. But you can reach him, he says. You can move faster than any fleet. You can hit him before he finishes his work. Mara lifts a hand. But remember the cost, she says. Every eye he twists, every heart he turns, cuts into you. The more public the fight, the worse the wound. Homelander stares at the hollow of Helios Sanctum. The main shrine world glows bright. Millions of faces he has never seen yet, each one a possible source of praise. He picked a stage, Homelander says. Fine, I'll give him a show. They gather a strike force. A grey knight strike cruiser, all silver and scripture, slides from its dock. Its prows are carved with wards against demons. Deep inside, Space Marines pray and check their weapons. Their psychic voices are clean and disciplined. A Custodes detachment joins them. Golden giants ready to kill anything that threatens the throne. Sisters of Silence, the psychic null warriors, walk the halls in quiet pairs, their mere presence muting warp noise. Homelander waits in the main launch bay, arms folded. Dravian appears as a hollow projected from Terra. Remember, the Lord Admiral says, your main goal is to stop the corruption from taking root. Kill the idol breaker if you can, but if you cannot, break his hold on the shrine. Homelander smirks. You're giving me permission to break a church? He asks. Mara's smaller hollow appears beside Dravian's. Her face is set. Do not enjoy it too much, she says. We are sending observers. If you turn this into a cult of you alone, we will act. You keep saying that, he replies. Let's see if you can back it up. He drops his gaze, focuses on the map of the warp route. The scar he tore into this reality still hangs near Terra. They will ride its edge, using the path his arrival made to cut travel time. The ship enters the warp. The Gellerfield hums, a golden shell of reality around them. Warp tides crash, clawing at the barrier. Homelander feels them as whispers against his skin. The more power he uses now, the louder they will get later. He saves his strength. Helios Sanctum burns. By the time the strike cruiser drops out of the warp, the shrine system is already under attack. Black ships carved with broken statues hang over the main world like vultures. Warp fire leaks from their wounds. Chains of demons and screaming souls trail in their wakes. On the surface, cities of white stone and gold domes roar with riot. Pilgrims tear at one another in the streets. Some scream Homelander's name and curse it. Others howl for the idol, Breaker, the true liberator. The main shrine, a tower that beams constant prayer songs toward Terra, is wrapped in a twisting storm of oily light. The mimetic field is established, a Grey Knight librarian says on the bridge, his psychic hood glowing. He has taken their faith and turned it against all rivals, including us. Drop me, Homelander says. Alone, a Custodes captain asks. Homelander's eyes burn. You'd just be in the way. They open the bay doors. He launches. He hits the upper air of Helios Sanctum like a meteor. Clouds flash to steam around him. Down below, the main shrine tower rises from a sea of kneeling, screaming people. On its pinnacle, a figure stands. The idol breaker waits. He is huge, wrapped in black and rust-red armor carved with shattered symbols from a dozen extinct religions. Skulls of dead saints hang from his belt. His helmet is a ruined crown, open at the front to show a face that shifts between man, beast, and razor-edged light. In one hand, he holds a weapon that is not quite a sword, not quite a whip, a chain of glowing ideas that twist and crackle. Homelander lands on the tower's mid-slope, stone cracking under his boots. The crowd below falls quiet for a heartbeat, looking up. Two gods on one spire. The idol breaker spreads his arms. "At last," he calls, voice booming across the city and straight into Homelander's mind. "The thief of faith comes to me." Homelander rises slowly into the air. His cape flutters, perfect, without effort. "This is my audience," he says. "Step off the stage." Laughter echoes in his head, but it is not all from the idol breaker. Some of it comes from the crowd, some from the warp. "You stand on another's altar," the idol breaker says. "You drink from another's cup. You call it safety. You call it love. But you are only hunger in a pretty suit." He swings the chain. It does not move through air. It moves through thought. Every mind in the plaza below feels a sting. Old doubts swell. Every time someone thinks, just for a second, that Homelander is false, the chain glows brighter. Homelander feels the hit. It is like being doused in ice water inside his skull. Power stutters. For a moment his flight wobbles. He grits his teeth and shoots forward. His fist crashes into the idol breaker's chest. Armor buckles. The Chaos Champion flies back, smashing through statues and pillars. The tower shakes. Homelander follows, fists a blur. He is faster, stronger. He drives the other warrior up the spire, leaving craters in sacred stone. Each blow sends cracks spidering through the shrine. The crowd below watches. Some cheer, some scream. Some fall to their knees and pray for one or the other to win. The idol breaker bleeds dark, smoky fire. He laughs through a shattered mouth. "Good," he says. "Hit harder. Make them choose." He lashes the chain again. This time, Homelander tries to dodge, but the weapon ignores. Distance. It wraps around him, sinking into his chest like hooks made of words. He sees faces. The people on the Shrine World who already hate him. The ones back on Terra who saw the warped image in the breach and felt their love turn to disgust. The plane he let fall. The fans he smiled at while planning their deaths. Each memory sharpens as the chain bites. "You are not their savior," whispers the idol breaker. "You are their fear with teeth." The crowd gasps as Homelander staggers. For the first time, blood, bright, almost golden, runs down his side where the chain digs in. He tries to blast it with his eye beams. The red light flares, but the chain drinks it, flaring hotter. Pain floods him. He falls. He slams into the tower, cracking stone. Pilgrims shriek and run. Some throw rocks at him. Others throw themselves between him and falling debris, still convinced he will rise and thank them. Every conflicting emotion feeds the storm. The grey knights break through the cloud layer above. Their drop pods scream down. Silver-clad warriors slam into the plaza, forming a circle around the tower. They start killing cultists with sad, efficient blows, trying to break the idol breaker's support. But every cultist who dies with a twisted prayer on their lips adds another spark to the chain. Homelander forces himself up, chest heaving. He has taken blows from tanks, lasers, and soups. Nothing has ever hit him like this, not just body, soul. The idol breaker strides forward, chain glowing bright. He taps the flat of his massive gauntlet against his breastplate, almost like a salute. "You could be so much more," he says. "You do not need their shallow love, their applause, their fragile hope. Their faith will always fail you. Their doubt will always hurt you." He steps closer. The chain tightens around Homelander's ribs. "Come with me," the Chaos Champion says. "We will tear down this rotten Imperium. We will feast on true worship. Worship without lies, fear, awe, despair. The dark gods will make you their equal. You will never feel weak again." The offer sinks in like a knife made of honey. Homelander remembers the hate in those shrine riots, the booze on his old world, the way his power flickered today when the crowd flinched. "What if I didn't have to care?" he thinks. "What if I could do whatever I want, and they still had to kneel?" He pictures burning this world, burning every world that dares doubt him, feeding on screams instead of applause. It would be easy, honest in its own cruel way. And hasn't the Imperium done worse? He has heard the whispers already. Exterminatus. Whole planets burned to spare others. Billions killed to save trillions. "You are already like us," the chain whispers. "You just dress it in blue and white." For a second, he almost nods. Then he hears another sound. It is small under the roar of battle. A child's prayer, thin, clear. "Please," a tiny voice whispers from the crowd below. "Please, don't let them take our star." Homelander looks down. Through the smoke, he sees a small girl in a tattered pilgrim robe, standing under a collapsing arch. She grips a broken icon of the old emperor in one hand and a scrap of red cloth in the other. She presses both to her chest and stares up at him with tear-streaked cheeks. She does not know his name. She does not know the Emperor's real state. She just wants someone to keep the sky from falling. Her fear tastes like all the rest, but there is something else in it too. A stubborn little flame that says, "Someone must care." He thinks of that plane again. He thinks of turning his back. He hates that memory, hates it in a way that has nothing to do with being caught, and everything to do with the way he still sees those falling faces when he tries to sleep. His lip curls. "I don't share," he snarls. He grabs the glowing chain with both hands. It burns his palms. Flesh sizzles. The pain is like molten glass. He pulls. The idol breaker laughs. "You cannot break a thought," he says. "Watch me," Homelander spits. He drags power from every corner of himself, from the warped scar, from the stolen faith around him, from the screaming crowd, from the thin, stubborn prayer of a single child. His eyes blaze bright enough to wash the color out of the world. For a moment, he is sure he will explode, that his body will rip apart under the weight, that he will become a sun made of broken prayers. Then the chain snaps. The sound is not in any ear. It is inside every mind in the system. The mimetic curse shatters. Cultists drop their weapons, screaming as their thoughts snap back. Some die where they stand, brains burned out by the whiplash. Others fall to their knees and vomit. The idol breaker staggers, dark ichor spraying from cracks in his armor. He roars, a sound like an entire choir being butchered. Homelander does not enjoy the next part. He grabs the Chaos Champion by the throat and drives him through the top of the shrine. They crash down through sacred chambers, crushing relics and altars. Priests run, wailing. They hit the foundation. The whole tower buckles. From orbit, the grey night sea readings spike. "Inquisitor," the librarian says over the vox. "If he keeps that up, the entire shrine world." Mara cuts in. "Homelander," she says, speaking through a psychic link the seers maintain. Stop. Pull him away from the node. If the main altar collapses, the warp will... Homelander hears, but his vision has gone red. He drives the idol breaker into the core of the shrine, where a massive psi-active crystal hums. It is the focus that beams Helios Sanctum's constant prayer to terror. The crystal cracks. A wave of raw belief explodes. It hits Homelander like a bomb. Every unspoken wish, every whispered prayer, every doubt, every curse, every hope the pilgrims ever had slams into him at once. He screams. The idol breaker laughs through his broken jaw. Yes, he croaks. Feel it. Feel what gods must bear. The shrine's core overloads. From orbit, it looks like a small sun blooming on the surface. The shockwave vaporizes the main city in a breath. Millions die without understanding why. Their last half-formed thoughts surge into the warp. The idol breaker's body is torn apart, his armor shredded. His laughing head dissolves into black smoke and flees into the warp, screaming promises. Homelander is hurled upward on a column of burning light. He bursts from the ruins, trailing fire that is half real, half psychic. His suit is charred. His cape is in tatters. His skin is cracked and glowing from within, as if something else is trying to get out. He cannot hear the screams of the dying, only the roaring in his own head. For a moment, something huge and dark pushes at the edges of his mind. The Chaos Gods have noticed him now, truly. They taste his pride, his hunger, his hurt. Serve, they whisper, or at least entertain us. A colder voice cuts through, not their toy. It is not a word, really, more like a shape, a pressure that slams between Homelander and the warp. It smells of burning iron and old blood. It feels like the memory of a man walking alone across a sea of skulls. The Emperor's will brushes him. It does not praise. It does not comfort. It simply says, no. The warp recoils. The dark hands withdraw. The idol breaker's shade is dragged away, screaming, denied his prize. The psychic explosion starts to settle. Homelander falls. Grey night teleport beacons flash. Silver-armored warriors snatch him out of the air and onto their strike cruiser's Apothecarian before he hits the ground. The shrine world burns behind them. Whole cities crumble into glass. The prayer beam to terror goes out. Codex note. When a primary faith node is detonated by a god-touch vector, the resulting psychic surge inflicts lasting corruption on all nearby warp interfaces, including the vector itself. Homelander wakes in pain. He lies on a slab in a Medicae bay. Servo arms buzz and click above him, trying to stitch his burned flesh. They give up quickly. His body heals itself faster than they can work, but in strange, uneven ways. Parts of his skin glow faintly with warp light. His eyes burn even when closed. Inside, his warp scar feels like a festering wound. Dravian stands at the foot of the slab, face grey. Mara stands beside him, expression carved in stone. How many? Homelander asks, voice rough. On Helios Sanctum, Dravian says. Billions lived there. Millions were in the main city when the shrine blew. He does not finish. Homelander stares at the ceiling. They were already infected, he says. If I left the shrine standing, that curse would have spread. You said so yourselves. I cut it at the root. Mara's eyes flash. Yes, she says. You did what some inquisitors have done. You chose to burn a world to save others. That is what we do, but we hate doing it. She steps closer. You, she says quietly, enjoyed it for a moment. He does not deny it. The idol breaker escaped in part, she continues. He shed his body and fled into the warp. He will grow back, given time. And now he knows what you are willing to do. Homelander sits up. Cables snap. Monitors scream. "So do you," he says. "Now you know I do what it takes. While you sit in rooms and argue about doctrine, I am out there getting my hands dirty so your little star empire can live one more day." "Do not talk to me about dirt on hands," Mara says. There is a tremor in her voice now, a crack in the ice. "I have given orders that killed more than died today. The difference is, I do not expect them to love me for it." Homelander swings his legs off the slab. His bare feet hit the cold deck. "I did not expect them to love me," he says. I did not want them to hate me for saving them." He hears how weak that sounds. "The galaxy does not care about your feelings," Mara says. "Then why do you care about mine?" he snaps. Silence hangs for a long moment. Dravian breaks it. "Enough," the old admiral says. "This fight is not finished. The shrine is gone, but the scar in you grows. The idol breaker will return, and the Emperor has already noticed. We must go to Terra, to the throne, for judgment." "Judgment," Homelander repeats. Mara nods. "You use the power of a god in a holy place," she says. "You burned a world that sang his name. The Emperor must decide if you are a tool to keep or a danger to erase." Homelander laughs once, sharp and disbelieving. "The corpse on the chair," he says. "He decides now?" Dravian meets his gaze. "Yes," he says. "Because even half dead, he is still the only thing holding this species together. And now you have tied yourself into his light, so you will walk before him, Homelander. One god pretender to another, and you will hear what he thinks of you." Up to now, Homelander has faced the idol breaker, nearly accepted a dark bargain, burned a shrine world to shatter a psychic curse, and earned both the Emperor's cold notice and an order to submit to judgment. They begin the pilgrimage. The Grey Night Strike cruiser becomes a processional ship as it turns back toward Terra. Banners are hung in its halls. Shrines are lit. The dead from Helios Sanctum, as many as they can recover, lie in rows in the cold holds, wrapped in simple cloth. Sisters of Silence walk between them, their null auras soothing the worst warp echoes. Homelander walks the corridors like a ghost. Where he passes, some crew cross themselves, some kneel, some turn away, unable to look at the man who both saved and doomed a world. In a small chapel near the viewing deck, Dravian finds him staring out at the streaming lights of the warp. "You should be in the Medicae," the Admiral says. "I heal fast," Homelander answers. "Body, anyway." He does not turn. Dravian steps up beside him. The chapel is simple. A small statue of the Emperor, candles, a worn bench. "I gave Exterminatus once," Dravian says quietly, "on a world called Kethran, Hive City planet, 30 billion souls. Chaos had burrowed deep. We could not be sure we had cut out the infection. So we burned it. Fire from orbit. Nothing left but cinders in the dark." Homelander glances at him. "Did you like it?" he asks. "No," Dravian says. "I still dream of their faces. I still hear the Vox pleas. But I did it because the alternative was worse. If the corruption spread, 10 worlds would have died instead of 1. That is the math of this age." Homelander looks back at the warp. "I did the math," he says. "I cut the curse. I saved who I could." "You also chased the idol breaker into the shrine heart because you were angry," Dravian says. "Because he hurt your pride. Because he made them laugh at you. Be honest." Homelander's hands tighten on the rail. "It is both," he says at last. "I am not your dead saint on a chair, Dravian. I am a man. A better man than most, sure, but not a machine." "No," Dravian agrees. "You are not. That is why you are dangerous. but it is also why you might do what he cannot. He nods toward the statue. The Emperor built this prison for himself, the Admiral says. He cannot leave the throne without ending the beacon. He cannot swing a sword or fire a gun. He can only push people like us from far away and hope we choose well. He did a great job, Homelander says dryly, gesturing at the hollow of the burning shrine world in the corner of the chapel. Dravian sighs. Not great, he says, but maybe the only job that kept us alive this long. Now you stand in his light. You can move. You can fight. But you also crave something he gave up long ago. Love, Homelander says. Yes, Dravian says. Their love, their worship, their approval. That is your weakness. And that is what the Idolbreaker and the Chaos Gods will keep using against you. They will set you choices where doing the right thing makes them hate you, and doing the wrong thing makes them cheer. Homelander stares at the small statue. What does he want from me? He asks. This Emperor, if he even thinks anymore. I do not know, Dravian says, but you will ask him soon, and he will answer in his way. In another part of the ship, Mara kneels in a warded chamber. Around her, hexagrammic wards glow. Incense smoke curls in patterns. A few trusted psychers sit in trance, their minds stretched toward terror. She writes in a small, plain book. Interrogator's log, she notes. Subject, Homelander, extra-galactic superhuman. Status, sanctioned under heavy condition. Corruption risk, rising. Capability, unmatched on tactical scale. Severe strategic hazard. She pauses. Today, she writes, he burned a world. Our world. In a way, he has finally become one of us. That terrifies me more than his alien strength. A warning bell rings. The ship shudders. Warp pressure spikes. Lights flicker. Mara is on her feet at once. She runs for the bridge, robe snapping. On the bridge, alarms scream. The Geller field wavers, rippling. What happened? She demands. Warp intrusion attempt, the tech priest intones. An entity is knocking. Outside the hull, something presses against reality. A shape peels out of the warp, visible on the hollows as a smear of wrong light. It is humanoid, but stretched, as if drawn by cruel hands. It wears a mockery of Homelander's suit, but the colors are reversed. Where he is blue and white and red, it is black and sickly gold. Its cape is made of shadow. Its face is his, but grinning wide enough to cut. The crew feels a pressure in their minds. Every doubt they have ever had about Homelander. Every secret wish that he would stop pretending to care and just show what he really is. Each one twists toward this new thing. It smiles. Hello, brother, the echo says, voice leaking through the hull as a whisper in every ear. Homelander steps onto the bridge, called by the same pressure. For a second, he thinks he is seeing a reflection in a broken mirror. What are you? He asks. I am what they fear you are, the mirror thing says. The god of honest cruelty. I was born when their love for you flipped to hate. When the Idolbreaker's curse struck, I am every boo, every spit, every curse they threw at your name, shaped into a body. Mara feels bile rise. Warp spawn, she says, a shard of his potential, fed by the hate he drew. The mirror Homelander drifts along the edge of the Geller field, testing it with one finger made of dark light. You hate this cage, it says. You hate these rules, the Inquisition's leash, the Emperor's shadow. Let me in. Drop the field. We will tear this ship open and drink everyone inside. We will be free. Homelander's chest tightens. He does hate the leash. He hates the looks in the crew's eyes. He hates knowing that 1 million people who never met him, Now curse his name because he did the math and chose a world to burn. The echo leans closer, lips almost touching the flickering barrier. Stop pretending, it whispers. You do not care about them. You care about how their faces make you feel. You can get that feeling from fear as easily as from love. Fear is easier, really. It never asks you to be better. Shut up, Homelander says. The echo laughs, same as he does when a joke fails and he wants to make someone suffer. You cannot kill me, it says. I am inside you. I am every time you wanted to vaporize a crowd that did not clap loud enough. I am every time you smiled while planning a massacre. It presses harder. The Geller field buckles, sparks fly. Tech priests chant louder. Mara grabs a rail. If that thing gets in, it will not, Homelander says. He floats toward the viewing port until he hangs just centimeters from the crackling barrier. He and his echo stare at each other. You are not me, he says softly. I am the only honest part of you, the echo answers. Homelander thinks of the child in the plaza, of Dravian's tired face, of Mara's stubborn eyes. He also thinks of the plane again. He breathes in slowly. Maybe, he says, but I am the part that chooses. He closes his eyes. He reaches not outward, toward the warped thing, but inward, toward the cold touch he felt in the shrine. For a moment, nothing answers. Then a weight falls. It is like a hand made of pure will pressing down on his soul. It hurts. It feels like kneeling when he wants to stand, but it also pushes the echo back, crushing it against the Geller field from the inside. On the hollows, the warp thing screams. Statues of the Emperor on the bridge glow. Their eyes bleed light. The Astronomican's distant beacon flares, a straight line of psychic force slamming down the warp stream. Not yet, that cold, wordless will says. The mirror Homelander cracks. Bits of shadow peel away, torn by the beam. The hate that fed it sizzles. Some of it dies. Some of it slithers back into the warp to wait. Before it fully breaks, it looks at Homelander with something like pity. Enjoy your leash, it hisses. Soon you will beg for me. Then it bursts. The Geller field stabilizes. Alarms quiet. The ship hums steady again. Homelander drops to one knee, gasping. Mara stares at him. What did you do? She asks. I asked him, Homelander says. The old man. I asked him to help. Mara shivers. And he answered, she says. Through you. Yes, Homelander says. Through me. The rest of the journey becomes something else. Not just a trip back to Terra, but a slow climb toward a throne that has ruled his new life since the moment he arrived. When the ship breaks back into real space above Holy Terra, the view is different this time. They come in along a processional orbit designed for the greatest of Imperial heroes and saints. Bells ring in the void as pilgrim barges and monitor stations sound salutes. Vox choirs broadcast hymns. Below, Terra glows under its smog and steel. The Imperial Palace stretches across a continent, a mountain range of gold and stone. Spires pierce the upper air. Gun batteries bristle like thorns. As they descend, Homelander sees something new. Dark shapes forming a ring around the palace. Silent ships, sharp and black, with no banners. Inquisitorial blockaders, Mara says. If this goes poorly, they are here to erase everything within the palace, including you. Comforting, Homelander says. They land at a private platform high on one of the palace's outer bastions. Golden armored custards wait. Sisters of silence in ash-grey robes stand behind them, their blank eyes sending a chill even through Homelander's skin. Their very presence dampens the warp. His inner scar aches less near them. A Custodes captain steps forward. By command of the Senatorum Imperialis, he says, and by the will of the Emperor, you are summoned to the Sanctum Imperialis. You will come unarmed. Homelander looks at his hands. He flexes them. These are the weapons, he says. Then you will come as you are, the Custodes replies. And you will behave. They escort him. The walk takes hours. They go down through halls carved with the history of mankind, past vaults of ancient weapons, past ranks of soldiers, past pilgrims frozen in hope and fear. They enter the silent halls where words are not allowed. Here, only the Emperor's will may speak. Sisters of silence fall in around Homelander, forming a ring. Their null auras wrap him. For the first time since he came to this universe, the warp is almost quiet. No whispers, no claws on the inside of his skull. Even the faint tug of distant faith dims. He feels smaller. Is this what you chose? He thinks, glancing inward at the throne. To sit in this kind of quiet forever. They pass medical wards where doomed psychers are prepared for sacrifice, their lives burned out to feed the beacon. They pass chapels where priests kneel, faces pressed to the floor, praying for a sign. Once, a group of low-ranking clerks catches sight of him between custodies. They gasp. Some try to kneel. A sister's cold gaze stops them. No prayers, Mara says quietly. Not here, not now. At last, they reach a gate made of solid gold and black adamantine, carved with 10,000 screaming faces. Beyond it lies the Sanctum Imperialis. The gate opens. The throne room is a mountain inside a mountain. The air is hot and dry, filled with the smell of oil, incense and burned flesh. Massive machines line the walls, humming and grinding, feeding power and souls into a single point. The golden throne sits on a dais of cables and bone. It is vast, enough to hold a titan. On it sits a corpse. At least, that is what Homelander's eyes see. A withered body, skin tight over bone, wrapped in golden armor that has fused to ancient flesh. Tubes run in and out of the shell. A crown of wires pierces the skull. But behind his eyes something else looks back. A vast, patient mind. Homelander feels it the moment he steps into the room. It is like standing in front of a star that has been burning in the same spot for 10,000 years. Not all light, not all good, just there, immense, unshakable. Lines of robed tech priests chant around the base of the throne. Psychers sit in rows, their eyes burned out, their souls feeding the beacon. Custodes stand like statues, spears ready. No one speaks. The voice comes without sound. You. It slams into Homelander's mind, not as a word, but as a presence. He drops to one knee without choosing to. His bones creak under the weight. He grits his teeth and forces himself back to both feet. Me, he says aloud. His voice sounds small here. Homelander. A flicker of amusement passes through the crushing pressure. A shallow name, the presence notes. A name chosen for effect. But you are not shallow, not entirely. Images flash in Homelander's head. His childhood in white rooms and lies. Vort's fake parents. Crowds cheering. Crowds screaming. The plane, the breach, terror. The shrine world burning. The Emperor sees it all in a moment. You are a weapon made for spectacle, the presence says. A blade that must be seen to believe in its own edge. You crave eyes, hearts, you drink from them. You think this makes you strong. It does, Homelander snaps in his mind. Look what I have done for your people in days. How many worlds did you save this week? The presence does not flare in anger. It does not need to. Images shift. The Siege of Terror, Horus, the Long War. 10,000 years of holding a warp rift open by sheer will, so that humanity can move between the stars. Billions of deaths, trillions of lives. I do not need them to love me, the Emperor says, only to endure. Then why did you let them turn you into this? Homelander asks. He gestures at the chamber, at the burning souls, into a god on a chair. The pressure eases for a heartbeat. Homelander feels something like tired contempt. I did not let it, the Emperor says. I lost. My best fell. My plans failed. This is the prison my mistake built. They painted me as a god because they could not carry the weight of my humanity. Homelander feels a strange twist in his chest. You regret it? He asks. Regret is a luxury, the Emperor answers. I own my failure. I pay for it. Every moment, that is all. The presence turns sharper. You, however, still chase comfort. You destroy a world to stop a curse, then flinch when they cry out. You ask to be loved as the savior without paying the full cost of that role. Homelander bristles. I paid, he says. I felt every mind when that shrine blew, every thought. I carry that. You carry it as a wound to your pride, the Emperor says, not as a duty. The words hit harder than the idol breaker's chain. Homelander wants to scream back, to say he is trying, that this galaxy is cruel beyond anything he knew, that he saved Terra, that he fought even when it hurt. Instead, he hears himself say something simpler. So what do you want from me? He asks. You pulled me here. You pushed the warp off me. You stopped that. Echo. You have seen what I can do. You know what I am. What now? Put me on a second throne. Put a leash on my neck. Kill me and go back to dying slowly. The Emperor's presence is silent for a long moment. When it speaks, it is colder and more focused. 3 paths, he says. You will walk one. I will make the others impossible. Images rise in Homelander's mind. He sees himself ripping free of Terra, tearing the warp scar wide and flying back to his old Earth. There he is different, changed by what he has seen. He could rule that world fully now, or try to fix it, or destroy it completely. But the path is unstable. Threads of time crack. Each step risks breaking both realities. He sees himself staying, but outside all law. A free godstrike, going where he wants, saving some worlds, punishing others, creating a cult of himself that rivals the church. Civil war follows. The Imperium fractures. Chaos feasts on the conflict. He sees himself sitting at the opposite side of the throne, not as a corpse, but as a living blade, bound to terror, bound to orders, his power routed through imperial law, loved and hated as an arm of a vast, ugly system, but an arm that saves more lives than it destroys. Up to now, Homelander has survived a warp-born echo of his own worst self, walked the silent halls to the Golden Throne, and entered into a crushing, wordless debate with the Emperor, who now shows him the outlines of 3 possible futures. Power Scaling Interlude 2. In a sealed chamber below the throne, tech priests and inquisitors argue over data from Homelander's pilgrimage. The Emperor has linked him, Imago says, mechadendrites, twitching. His warp scar is now anchored to the Astronomicon. Every time he uses his full strength, a portion of that energy feeds back into the beacon, strengthening it for a moment. Mara notes, that means our navigation grows safer when he fights, but it also means he cannot fully cut himself from Terra. If he tries to flee this duty, the feedback will tear him apart. Dravian sums it up again. He can strike harder than any fleet, but every great blow ties him tighter to the throne. His power is no longer just his own toy. It is part of the same cruel engine that has kept us alive this long. The visions crash through him one after another. In the first, he rips free. He tears open the warp scar above Terra with his bare hands. He flies into it, dragging a tale of stolen faith behind him. The tunnel spits him out over his old Earth. It looks small now, soft. A blue ball wrapped in thin clouds and thin morals. He sees himself floating over cities that once terrified him. Now they are toys. He could rule them with a glance, or burn them just to hear them scream his name. But the vision zooms wider. Threads of light connect this Earth and the far future Terra. Each choice he makes there shakes this age. When he saves someone on that Earth, worlds in 40K blink out. When he kills, other worlds here burn brighter or darker in strange patterns. Time phrase. He sees his old fans. They cheer. Then their faces blur. His memories blur. He forgets names. He forgets why he left. He forgets the shrine world. He forgets the girl with the broken icon. In the end, he stands alone above a ruined Earth, and he cannot remember if he ever left this place at all. That is the return. The second vision is sharper, hungrier. He stays in this age, but walks away from the throne. He laughs in the faces of the High Lords. He tears down inquisitorial ships. He kills a cardinal on live pick across 1,000 worlds. He flies where he wants. He saves some planets in grand bloody shows. He lets others burn because they dared to doubt. His cult grows. Red-caped statues rise in every hive. His name replaces the emperor's in some prayers. In others, people curse both. The church splits. Half the ecclesiarchy serves him, half fights him. Space Marine chapters choose sides. Loyalists and Homelanders tear each other apart. Chaos watches and smiles. The idol breaker returns, feeding on every broken oath, every murdered saint. The chaos gods drink from the civil war like it is the finest wine. Humanity does not die at once. It rots. It becomes a playground for monsters and gods who wear human skin. That is the free agent. The third vision is the heaviest. He stays. He kneels. Not like now, forced by the Emperor's weight. By choice. He accepts a chain, but not the chaos kind. A chain of law, of duty, of ugly, necessary math. They do not call him Emperor at first. They call him Regent of the Light, or Winged Protector, or a dozen other careful titles. Priests argue the words. People argue in the streets. Some adore, some resent. He goes where he is sent. He hates taking orders. Hates waiting in orbit while councils decide. Hates letting a world die because the bigger picture says so. But he also sees something else. Worlds that would have burned now survive. Hive cities that would have fallen to tyranids now hold. Black crusades that would have cracked whole sectors now break against a single red cape and a simple, ruthless will. He sees Mara's face grow more lined as years pass. Dravian dies in a chair, old and proud, watching stars from a window on Terra. New admirals take his place. New inquisitors write new laws. He does not age. He becomes a story, then a symbol, then a habit. Sometimes the people cheer him. Sometimes they spit. Sometimes they blame him for wars he tried to stop. Sometimes they praise him for victories he wanted no part of. But humanity lives. Barely, brutally, imperfectly. But it lives. That is the sanctioned servant. The visions fade. The throne's pressure settles on him again. Now choose, the Emperor says. Not with your vanity, with your answer to a single question. What question? Homelander asks, jaw tight. Do you think this age is for? The Emperor asks. You or them? Homelander wants to say both. He wants to say he can balance it, that he can have the cheers and do the right thing, that he can be loved and feared and still be good enough. The shrine burns in his memory. Helios Sanctum, The screams, the child's thin voice. Please don't let them take our star. He thinks of his old Earth, the plane, his face reflected in a phone screen while people filmed their own deaths. He could go back and fix that, or pretend to. But this galaxy is worse, bigger, more cruel. It needs him more. It needs something like him more. He starts, then stops. He tries again, slower. I want them to live, he says. I want them to live long enough to decide if they love me or hate me, not die before they can choose. The Emperor's will presses closer. That is not an answer, he says. That is a hope. What do you accept as the price? Homelander closes his eyes. He sees himself breaking free, ruling alone, playing God with no rules. That path feels sweet and small. It ends in ash and laughter that is not his. He sees himself kneeling on this cold floor, taking orders from a corpse and a council. That path feels insulting and big. It ends in a galaxy that still has human faces. I choose the third, he says. I stay. I take the chain. I take your orders. I save who I can. He opens his eyes. But I will not disappear into your shadow, he adds, anger flickering. They will know my face. They will know who fights for them. I am not a silent machine. The Emperor's presence does not smile, but something in it shifts. Good, he says. I do not need another ghost. I need a shield that moves. Light erupts, not the soft gold of cathedral candles. Hard, white light, edged in red and black. It lances from the throne into Homelander's chest. He screams. His warp scar, the wound from the breach that brought him here, rips open fully, and then slams shut under the Emperor's will. Threads of psychic power lash out from it, anchoring into the walls, into the galaxy, into the Astronomicon. His power locks into a new circuit. Every time he flies at full speed now, a flare of that energy runs back to the throne, feeding the beacon. Every time he fires his I-beams at arena battle level, a piece of his old memories burns away. Not all at once, but slowly, like paper curling in flame. His time at Vought, his old crowds, his old world, all become duller, blurrier. Every time he goes beyond even that, reaching the edge of what he can do, the chain tightens. Pain stabs through his new bond. The Emperor feels it too. They share the hurt. The light dies. Homelander staggers. On his chest, where his old logo once sat, something new glows. The Aquila, the twin-headed eagle of the Imperium, spreads its wings in golden lines. Over it, in red, his old symbol, simple, sharp, a stylized H, burns like a brand. Above the throne, high in the shadows, a banner unfurls. It shows the same fused sigil. The Emperor's eagle, wearing a red cape. In the halls outside, bells begin to ring. You are bound, the Emperor says. You will act as my regent of the void, my spear, my lyre slayer. You will carry my wars where I cannot walk. Homelander breathes hard. What are the rules? He asks. Say them out loud. A flicker of approval. Good, the Emperor says. Listen. The voice cuts into his mind like iron nails. You will not kill Imperial citizens for failing to adore you, the Emperor says. You may kill to stop chaos, xenos, or rebellion that threatens the species, not to soothe your ego. You will not destroy a world without consensus of the High Lords, or direct approval from me, he continues. If you must make that choice in the field, you will accept judgment after. You will accept inquisitorial oversight, he says. They will watch for corruption. They will speak for those who fear you. They may not order you to betray the species. If they try, you will come to me. You will use your full power only when the survival of a world, a fleet, or a key faith node is in direct danger, he says. Not for shows. not for petty revenge. You will protect children where possible, he adds, and the words sting more than the others. You will not use them as shields or tools. You will not turn away when they call. Homelander swallows. And if I break these rules, he asks. Then we both burn, the Emperor says. Your bond ties into my beacon now. If your corruption reaches a point where you threaten the species more than you save it, I will drag us both into the dark and let humanity try again, without either of us. Homelander laughs once, raw. You'd kill yourself, he says, and me, to give them a chance. Yes, the Emperor says simply. I should have done it long ago. Do not make me do it now. The weight eases a fraction. Mara and Dravian, waiting at the edge of the sanctum, feel it like a change in air pressure. The floor trembles. The great machines hum in a new key. The gate opens. Homelander walks out. His step is slower. His cape is different, deeper red, lined with faint gold script. The new Aquila symbol burns on his chest. Mara's psychic escort shivers. Even damped by Sisters of Silence, they feel the link. What happened? Dravian whispers. Homelander looks at them. I got promoted, he says. Mara's eyes narrow. To what? She asks. To the part of his job he cannot do any more, Homelander says, nodding back toward the throne. I go where he cannot. I bleed where he will not. I'm his blade, and yours, with rules. Dravian's shoulders sag, with a strange mix of relief and dread. The Emperor spoke to you, the Lord Admiral says. You heard him. Homelander nods once. Mara studies him. Are you still you? She asks. For now, he says, though I lost some things. He reaches for a memory, the face of one of his old handlers at Vault. For a second he sees it, then it slips away like a name forgotten the moment you wake. His jaw tightens. I chose this, he says. Remember that. When you start writing your little reports about how dangerous I am, I had chances to run, to rule alone. I stayed. Mara holds his gaze. I know, she says quietly, and I will still watch you. He almost smiles. Good, he replies. Someone has to. Up to now, Homelander has chosen the path of a sanctioned servant, bound himself to the throne with a harsh new code, and walked out of the sanctum as the Emperor's living blade, carrying both a new symbol and new limits. The proclamation goes out 3 days later. It is read in high and low places at once. On the floor of the Senatorum Imperialis, under vaults of carved history, a crier with a vox-amplified voice announces the text. By decree of the High Lords of Terror, he reads, under the direct seal of the Golden Throne, and with the sanction of the holy orders of the Emperor's Inquisition, let it be known. On Forge Worlds, adepts pause at their consoles to listen. On Hive Worlds, speakers crackle in habstacks. On black ships in the warp, psychers lift their heads. That the one called Homelander, extra-galactic champion and savior of Saul, is recognized as regent of the light and spear of terror. He is no replacement for the master of mankind, but his sanctioned servant. Priests shift in their robes. Some bristle at no replacement. Some breathe out in relief. He shall bear the fused sigil of the Aquila and the winged seal. He shall act under law, under judgment, and under watch. He shall fight where the Emperor cannot walk, and bleed so that humanity may endure. On a dozen worlds, painters climb ladders to adjust murals. They do not erase the Emperor. Instead, they add a new figure beside him. A man in red and blue, cape flowing, eagle and H burning on his chest, standing before the throne with a fist clenched. In many of these images, the artist paints the man looking not at the god behind him, but straight out of the wall, at the viewer. In the Inquisitorial archives, Mara adds a new entry. Designation, she writes, Homelander, Regent of the Light. She lists his deeds, his crimes, his potential. Operating rules established by the throne itself, she notes. Binds accepted. Warp scar anchored to Astronomicon. Power now major asset and existential risk. She stops, then adds one more line. Personal judgment. He is trying. She underlines it once. She does not draw a smiley face or a skull, or any of the small jokes some inquisitors add in private. She simply closes the book and locks it. Then she orders expanded surveillance on all new Homelander cults. In orbit, Dravian stands at a viewport on his flagship. Terror hangs below, wrapped in clouds and fortress rings. The new banner above the palace is a tiny speck of color even from space. A small hollow window shows live picked from a far frontier world. Homelander smashing a Necron tomb column into shards, I-beams cutting living metal. Each time he hits that hard, a small gauge in the corner of the hollow spikes, showing a surge in the Astronomicon. Incredible, a Vox officer whispers. Dravian nods. Send support, he orders, but stay clear. He'll do the heavy lifting. He does not say out loud that he feels both grateful and useless watching that red streak carve through the enemy. He has done great things with ships and guns. This is different. We built an empire that needed a god, he murmurs to himself. Now we have two. Maybe they will keep each other honest. In the warp, the idol breaker reforms. He drifts in a storm of broken prayers, armor knitting from failed faiths. His new body is leaner, cracked, and scarred where Homelander's hands tore it. He remembers the chain snapping, the shrine exploding, the taste of a rival who refused to join him. He laughs. Good, he says to the listening dark. Let him tie himself to the corpse. Let him accept rules. Let him learn guilt. It will make him heavy, precious, worth more when I break him. He turns his attention toward the bright line of the Astronomicon. Now, every time Homelander fights, a flare runs along that line. The idol breaker licks his lips. Shine, little star, he whispers. I am patient. Chaos gods stir. Khorne, the blood god, snorts with interest at a warrior who fights for duty but tastes glory in every kill. Slanesh, the prince of excess, purrs at a man who craves worship and pain in equal measure. Tzeentch, the changer, nods at a piece on the board that can shift whole sectors with a choice. Nurgle, the grandfather, just chuckles, amused by yet another soul who thinks he can carry more rot than he holds. None of them can quite claim Homelander now. The Emperor's will is wrapped around him like barbed wire. Every tug from the dark meets a counterpull from terror. It hurts him. It also keeps him from falling. For now. And on a forgotten rock in the middle of nowhere, a small girl looks up at a new mural. She and a few thousand other survivors from Helios Sanctum were moved here after the shrine world burned. The place has no grand cathedrals, just a low chapel made of stone and scrap. On its wall, someone painted the Emperor, tall and gold and distant. Beside him, smaller but bright, they painted Homelander. His cape is too long. His face is a little wrong. The artist only saw him on a grainy screen before the sky turned white. The girl does not care. She stands there in her worn clothes, holding the same broken icon she carried that day. The old Emperor's face is chipped. She has tied a scrap of red cloth around it. It looks silly. She likes it. She kneels. Hi, she whispers, not sure which figure she is talking to. Maybe both. I don't know all the right words. If you see us. Please don't forget this world. We're small, but we're still here. She squeezes her eyes shut. In the void high above, Homelander streaks past on his way to another wall. For a second, he feels a tiny tug on the new chain in his chest. A small, stubborn prayer, lost in a sea of bigger ones. He could ignore it. He does not. He sends a single command down the line to Dravian's fleet. Divert a patrol, he says. Check on a rock called Sanctum's Echo. They'll need supplies, and a shield if trouble comes. No great strategic value, Dravian's adjutant notes. Doesn't matter, Homelander replies. We're not losing. Another shrine kid this month. He cuts the link and flies harder. His eyes burn. Not from power, from something else. He tells himself it is just smart PR. Maybe part of it is. But when he closes his eyes for a moment, between stars, he sees the girl's face more clearly than he remembers some of his old fans. He holds on to that. For now, it is enough. Codex note. By joint edict of the High Lords of Terror and the Golden Throne, Homelander, Regent of the Light, is bound as Sanctioned Emperor's Spear. His actions legal under Lex Imperialis only so long as they preserve humanity's survival above his own glory.